I mean, Greg Beha, what a story he shared. I didn't know what I was in for. Here I am doing a show about mind control and Scientology horror stories. And the next thing I know, in the same show, I'm doing consumer advocatism. I mean, this was a consumer advocate story from beginning to end. Um, it's a story about his son. Actually, here it's the Beha family story. This is a middle Western family from a little town in Ohio, and Mr. and Mrs. Beha are concerned about their son, who had a drug problem, and they go on the internet and they find something that appears to look like Narcotics Anonymous. But what it is, and it was the top page of Google, said Narconon. So, I mean, they're thinking that must be Narcotics Anonymous. So they call, and, the closest center to them was in Michigan. So that was where they sent their son, not realizing that Narconon is a front group for Scientology. And, they didn't know that until their son figured it out several days into the program. And, so the son figured out, hey, I see a picture of L. Ron Hubbard on the wall. Something is definitely not cool about this. And he started making noise. And as Greg told the story on my show, the people there at Stonehawk Drug Rehabilitation had basically driven him, several miles, dropped him off in a seedy motel, and put $10 in his pocket and left him alone and left him be. And, and on the show, we have the president of Narconon, Clark Carr, listening to Mr. Beha tell his story. And what really made this a great segment is that, everybody that was sitting there in the studio that day were I don't want to say we were jumping on Clark Carr, but we certainly challenged him. What are you doing? You are the president. The buck stops with you. You could be doing something. You could be refunding them the money that they spent to put their son through your program, which, by the way, was over 20 grand. And so, they, when you listen to that show, you didn't really know how it turned out. But come to find out, several weeks later, I had Greg Beha scheduled to be on with me again. And in the interim, Stonehawk and Narconon had gotten a hold of him and had offered him a full refund, under the condition that he would not come back to the Vince Daniels show. So what ended up happening, and this is the real story of the Greg Beha story that a lot of people don't know, is that he created a follow-up for me by telling me all about some other families that were going through the same thing. They emailed me, I emailed them back, and wow, that ended up being even, just as or more explosive.